What's up, guys? It is Patricia from tarantulaheaven.com. Welcome to Tarantula Tuesday. If you are new, I have Miss Spidey, my Jew Rosea, right here. She is in the back, so I don't know if you can see her, but maybe she will come to the front for you guys. Today, I wanted to talk about what to do if your tarantula loses a leg. If you're new, every week I put out videos about tarantulas, tarantula facts, tarantula observations. You can find that here every single week on Tarantula Tuesday. And if you are not new, thank you for coming back. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this topic because when we get our first tarantula, we often don't realize all of the things that could go wrong. And despite how limited their nervous systems and processing systems might be, it's not simple at all. Their bodies are actually incredibly complex. So today we're going to talk about a common tarantula injury, a lost or injured leg. And of course, all the things that you could do about it. So how you treat an injured tarantula really depends on several different factors. So one of them is it depends on how they lost the leg. Another thing is the location of the injury. For example, if it was at a joint or if it was between a joint, or is the leg completely gone? And also how bad the injury is and if it is an open wound. So an injury could happen during a bad molt. That is really, really common. And it's also common for sometimes if a leg is deformed after a molt, if there was a complication. And sometimes you need to amputate if that's the case. But a tarantula leg can also become injured if there's some sort of trauma, like something falling on it, or the tarantula fell, or sometimes tarantulas might even get stuck in part of their tank, like a mesh lid or something like that. The leg might actually break off. So one thing that really impacts the way that you treat the tarantula injury is how it happened. So the first thing you want to do is note how bad the wound is. You also have to determine whether the wound is open or closed. What a lot of newer tarantula owners do not know is that tarantula blood is not really like our blood. It doesn't clot. And so if there's an open wound and there is liquid coming out, which is called hemolymph, then you need to help the tarantula close that wound by using some sort of binding agent. So some people use things like cornstarch. I've seen some people use white flour. It is also sometimes recommended that people use super glue in a bind, like if you don't have anything else, but I think that's not being recommended as much anymore because I think it might be toxic and it's also dangerous for tarantulas because they can get other body parts stuck on it because it's so sticky, fast drying. So I think that is something to do if you absolutely don't have anything else. But cornstarch is usually a pretty good option and most of us have it in our kitchens anyway. So the location of the wound also matters. So I mentioned that it depends on where in the leg it broke. So if the leg broke at the joint, like where the tarantula's leg bends, it might not be oozing too much liquid actually, or it might be a very clean wound. But if it was like a partial break or it broke like in the middle of the leg or between the joints, you may actually have to amputate a little bit to make a clean wound, or you might have to actually do a little bit more closing of the wound because there might actually be more liquid oozing out. And I actually found a really great video about how to do this, so I'm linking that in the description below. I do believe that tutorials are super helpful because I know that even as I'm explaining to it, it always helps to be able to visualize and see how people do things. And I've never had to do this, so I don't have a tutorial for you guys. So definitely check out the video below after this. Now, if the leg is severely damaged or deformed, and you think it might interfere with a future molt, which is entirely possible, or it might even be compromising your tarantula's ability to move around if it's a pretty bad one, you might also need to amputate. And the way you would amputate is by taking a really sharp either razor or scalpel or something like that, maybe even an X-Acto knife. And you'll want to do this at the joint so that there's less blood loss, but also cleaner growth. And of course, also make sure that you have that binding agent available so that you can seal off the wound. And now, a lot of us can't even imagine doing this on a live tarantula because, especially if we have a fast-moving one, just the thought of having to operate on your tarantula is pretty scary. So what a lot of people might do is they will use a catch cup to kind of keep the tarantula in one place. Or I've also heard that you might get the tarantula in a container and then putting them in the refrigerator for just a few minutes. You don't want to do this for a long time because you don't want them to slow down too much, but tarantulas do kind of slow down in the cold. So making sure that, of course, you don't forget about them, but just making sure that you have a few minutes where you can, just kind of cool them down so that they slow down, and that might give you enough time to perform the operation. And some people even use things like carbon dioxide to slow a tarantula down. So you can certainly look up information about that on YouTube or elsewhere on the web. There's a lot of really great info on arachnoboards.com as well. Now, if your tarantula was lucky and had a really clean break and there's no fluids coming out and it's pretty okay, the tarantula's doing fine, you don't really have to do too much. Tarantulas actually grow back body parts during their molting process. They have a really amazing ability to heal themselves. And there's actually been reports where a tarantula might have lost like almost all of their legs in a molt, and they actually slowly grow it back over time. It's really amazing, and I totally recommend that you look up some of these instances, because the will of a tarantula to live is quite amazing, and what their bodies are actually able to do in regenerating their limbs is really, really fascinating. So yeah, it might take a few molts for the tarantula to grow their limb completely back, but they will grow it back in most cases. And sometimes you might not even need to wait that long. I have heard in some cases where a tarantula was injured, they might molt faster than usual. This is called an emergency molt, and this is kind of what the tarantula's body does. It kind of throws itself into a molt so that it can like reacquire its limbs a little bit faster and speed up the healing process. So either way, it's really, really important and critical to not only watch videos like this and other videos that are of other tarantula owners' experiences and knowledge, because you want to be prepared before something like this happens. You don't want to have your tarantula being injured and then be looking on YouTube for what to do. You want to already know what to do in your worst case scenarios. So definitely look on YouTube for advice, watch tutorials. I've linked a few down below. Definitely also search on forums like Arachnoboards. There's a lot of really great imagery and experiences that other tarantula owners share on there. Also post in tarantula Facebook groups just to see how other people handle this. We all are in different situations and have different tarantulas, so it's good to get a bunch of different opinions, and we're all different people too. You might be comfortable with something that I am not comfortable with, and so it's great to just know what options are out there. I hope that this helps. I hope this gives you some more things to consider if you're thinking about getting a tarantula, or if you've just gotten a tarantula and you're just trying to be prepared for anything that comes your way. There is so much great resources on the internet now for tarantula owners, so I hope that this is, a helpful part of your tarantula education. And please let me know if you have any other advice for what to do if your tarantula loses a leg. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next week for Tarantula Tuesday. Bye-bye.